Collapse. The end of an era. We're taught to fear it, to see it as a total failure. The fall of Rome, the crumbling of dynasties. We picture a descent into darkness. We look at the broken aqueducts and the toppled statues, and we imagine a world plunged into chaos and ignorance. History books tell tales of lost knowledge and societal breakdown, a tragedy that took a millennium to recover from. But what if the real terror isn't the fall? What if the true nightmare is a world that never got the chance to be reborn? What if that cycle of collapse and renewal, a cycle that has defined all of human history, was broken forever? We imagine the peace and stability of an eternal empire. But the reality? That would be a world of permanent stagnation, unimaginable environmental ruin, and the slow, quiet death of the human spirit. Number 1. The necessary storm. We're conditioned to see collapse as an endpoint, a final, tragic chapter. But in reality, it's a lot more like a forest fire. It's destructive, chaotic, and absolutely terrifying for those who live through it. But ultimately, it's a force of renewal. The fall of the Western Roman Empire is the classic example. For the people on the ground, the breakdown of trade and constant warfare was obviously a catastrophe. But when Rome fell, Europe splintered into 1,000 competing pieces. In the monolithic grip of a single empire, innovation usually just serves the status quo. This violent, chaotic competition between rival kingdoms, city-states, and merchant republics is what created the crucible for the Renaissance, the scientific revolution, and the age of exploration. With the crushing weight of centralized authority gone, new ideas had room to breathe, to compete, and to flourish. For many common people, the end of Rome's crippling tax system could have even been a relief from economic burdens, though for others, it just meant trading one hardship for another. This pattern repeats all over history. The mysterious collapse of the Mayan city-states around 900 CE, likely driven by drought and self-inflicted environmental damage, paved the way for new cultural centers to rise in the Yucatan. The Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE saw the end of mighty empires like the Hittites and Mycenaeans. While the Phoenicians already existed as a maritime people, the resulting power vacuum allowed their trade networks to expand, and their influence, including their alphabet, to spread across the Mediterranean. Collapse is history's reset button. It clears away the old, the rigid, and the unsustainable, making way for the new. So, what happens when that button is removed forever? Number 2. The point of divergence, the empire that cannot fall. To imagine this world, we don't need to save one specific empire. Instead, let's picture a fundamental innovation in the art of governance itself. A political technology, developed by some vast Roman-style empire, that solves the classic problems of corruption, succession, and logistics that doom every civilization to an eventual decline. Let's call it the Corvus system. It's not a superweapon, but a complex bureaucratic and social machine. Think of it as an administrative AI powered by some kind of precursor mechanics, able to perfectly optimize resource distribution, predict civil unrest, and manage a flawless line of succession. It's a system of governance so efficient, so stable, that it makes the empire immune to the internal decay that plagued all the others. It can manage its economy to avoid collapse, its legions to crush any threat, and its provinces to stamp out any thought of rebellion. The empire doesn't just survive, it calcifies, it achieves a state of perfect, unshakable equilibrium. It conquers the known world, and with no external rivals and no internal challengers, the era of conquest ends. The era of administration begins, an eternal peace, a pax eterna. And in this perfect peace, humanity's progress begins to die. Number 3. The slow, silent decay. The first 1,000 years are a golden age of a sort. The aqueducts never crumble, the roads are always maintained, peace reigns from sun-scorched deserts to frozen forests. But it's a sterile peace. Without the pressure of competing states or existential threats, the engine of innovation just sputters and dies. Why invent a better crossbow when your borders have been secure for 5 centuries? Why challenge philosophical truths when the state-sanctioned orthodoxy provides stability and comfort? Science becomes scholasticism, endlessly debating the works of ancient masters without ever producing new knowledge. Art becomes imitation, perfectly replicating the styles of the Golden Age, but creating nothing original. Society enters a state of what economists call structural stagnation. It's a risk-averse culture where new ideas are seen as dangerous, and the highest virtue is simply maintaining the perfect, unchanging present. There is no Renaissance, because the classical world never ended. There's no enlightenment, because radical questions are inefficient and destabilizing. The empire doesn't just halt progress, it becomes fundamentally allergic to it. That feeling of being stuck in a rut isn't just a personal problem anymore, it's a civilizational condition. Number 4, the unhealing wound. Unhealing. In our timeline, the environmental impact of ancient empires was significant, leaving scars like deforestation and lead pollution that in some cases have lasted for centuries. The Mayans, for example, engaged in such widespread deforestation that it may have worsened the very droughts that contributed to their decline. But in many places, landscapes did eventually recover over time. Now, imagine that level of impact, not for a few centuries, but for 2,000 years, backed by a slow, creeping technological advancement. This unbroken empire, with its ancient mindset of limitless resources, never has an environmental awakening. It doesn't need one. The Corvus system is ruthlessly efficient at resource extraction, not conservation. By the equivalent of our 21st century, the world is a horror show. The great forests of Europe and Asia are gone, replaced by endless, scientifically managed farmlands and sterile tree plantations. Entire mountain ranges have been leveled by millennia of quarrying. The oceans are barren, their ecosystems annihilated by centuries of industrial-scale fishing. The air is thick with the soot of countless furnaces and forges, creating pollution that exceeds our own industrial revolution, just spread over a much longer period. It's an ecocide committed in slow motion, an environmental catastrophe so complete and so gradual that no one alive can even remember a world with real wilderness. The planet isn't dying. In many ways, it's already dead, transformed into a giant, perfectly managed but lifeless factory floor for the empire. Number 5, the gilded cage. The most terrifying consequence, however, isn't the dead technology or the ruined environment. It's what happens to the human spirit. With no collapses, there are no revolutions, no social upheavals. The social structures that existed when the empire was founded have now been set in stone for 80 generations. The descendants of the original conquerors are a permanent hereditary aristocracy. The rest of humanity is locked into a rigid, inescapable caste system. You're born a farmer, a miner, a scribe, or a soldier, and so are your children and their children, forever. There is no hope of upward mobility, no dream of a different life. The system assigns your purpose for the good of the system. And this isn't a society of brutal, obvious oppression. It's much more insidious than that. The Corvus system makes sure everyone is fed, housed, and protected. There is no poverty, but there is no freedom. There's no real suffering, but there is no true joy. It's a society that has traded dynamism for stability, freedom for comfort, and hope for predictability. It has created a world of billions of people who feel disconnected, apathetic, and resigned to a future that will be identical to the present, forever. The human spirit, which thrives on challenge and change, has been quietly and efficiently smothered. We look at the ruins of past civilizations and feel a sense of loss. We mourn for the libraries that burned, the cities abandoned, the knowledge forgotten. But maybe we should look at them differently. Perhaps they aren't monuments to failure, but symbols of renewal. They're proof that nothing is permanent, that even the mightiest empires must fall, and that in their collapse, something new and different is given the chance to grow. The world of the unbroken empire is a world without war, without poverty, without strife. It is a world of perfect order, and it is a living hell. It's a cautionary tale reminding us that progress isn't born from stability, but from chaos. That innovation isn't a product of comfort, but of necessity. And that the messy, violent, and imperfect cycle of rise and fall is infinitely better than the silent, gray permanence of a world without collapse. Our history is scarred by tragedy and conflict, but it's also a story of resilience, of rebirth, and of endless possibility. And that is a far more hopeful story than any tale of an empire that lived forever. What part of our modern world do you think would be most unrecognizable in this alternate timeline? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring these forgotten paths of history, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon for more journeys into what might have been. Thanks for watching.